You're listening to the How to Talk to Girls podcast with your dating coach, Trip, from tripadvice.com. Do you struggle with getting girls to like you? Well, you're going to learn step-by-step how to talk to girls to create deep connections and meet the woman of your dreams. Here's your host, me, Trip. Hello and welcome to the How to Talk to Girls podcast. I'm your host, Trip Kramer from tripadvice.com. Welcome back to another episode. Happy to be here, excited to be here, and excited to be talking to you, even though I'm recording this all alone next to no one. It is very funny to sit here and record an entire podcast that you know thousands and thousands of people are listening to, but you're just doing it all alone in a room. It's kind of trippy, no pun intended. All right, today's episode, we are talking about the number one sign that a woman is interested. I know a lot of guys want to learn about this. I talk about this on my YouTube channel quite a bit, and I believe I've talked about it on the podcast. Don't remember, I have over 250 episodes at this point, but excited to be talking about it again because it's a great reminder. Guys need to know, and they need to understand when a girl is interested in them and what to look out for. You need to know. You need to know why. Why is it important to know if a girl likes you? Well, there's one reason why it is important, and I'm also going to give you a reason today why it's actually not important at all, which is, I know, is kind of funny. It's like, well, why'd you make this podcast? Well, because it still is important in some ways. And what is that one thing that makes it important? Well, that one thing that makes it important is you being able to understand if she is ready for you to take the interaction further, right? So there's an idea called compliance. This is talked about in the dating advice community, compliance, getting her to comply. And you want to get a girl to comply to your requests so you can go from meeting her and hello all the way to bedroom, all the way to relationship. You get her to comply, right? You get her to say yes. And so there's little steps that you're taking to get her to say yes. You know, that is maybe asking her name. That is, asking her if she wants to go dance, asking her for her number, making a move and trying to kiss her, right? And so if she's complying, we call this a compliance ladder because we're moving up the ladder of compliance. If she's complying, then you know you can take the interaction forward. So this is why it is good to tell if a girl's interested in you so you can move up the compliance ladder. Okay, so let me just explain again here in layman's terms. You want to know if she's interested so then you can push your interaction forward so you can complete the goal. And obviously, what's the goal when you're trying to talk to a girl? Well, the goal is to get her number, or have sex with her, or get into a relationship, right? I mean, ultimately, it's sex in a relationship, but there are a few action items that need to happen before that can happen. You might not be able to take a girl home when you first meet her. That's not always the case. So you get her number, and then you get her on a date. And again, compliance. And then you move the interaction forward to sex. And then if you so choose to have this girl as a partner or a girlfriend, well, then you do that and you move forward there, right? So goals in mind. So that's why, again, back to the topic here, is it's good to know if she's interested in you because then you know whether to move forward. Now, on the other hand, I know this is going to sound kind of contradictory, but really on the other hand, sometimes it doesn't matter if you even know if a girl is interested, right? Or it doesn't matter to know that. It doesn't matter to know that. Why? Because you should really just assume it and just move forward anyways. I mean, obviously, you're not going to do anything that's going to make her feel uncomfortable, right? If you're not getting any signs that she's interested, like if she's not talking back to you when you're trying to start a conversation with her, you're not going to go for the kiss, right? That's obvious here. But you don't really need to know for sure if she likes you to be able to ask for her number, or to, ask her if she wants to go dance, or to continue talking to, or to ask her more questions, or to flirt with her. You don't really need to know the sign that she's interested in you. But I know you're probably like, Trip, I'm here to learn this sign. That's what this title and episode is all about. Well, fine. I'm going to tell you right now. You know what it is? The number one sign that women give men they like? It's attention. That's right, attention. And so I want you to look for this sign when you're with her, because that's all you need. It's a very light sign. That's it. It's a very, very light sign. Is she paying attention to you? Is she paying attention to you? Ask yourself that. Is she paying attention to you? What does that look like? What does it look like when a woman is paying attention to you? What does that look like? Well, she's asking you questions. She's looking at you in the eye. She's still next to you. She's still talking to you in conversation. She's replying to your text messages. She's replying to your dating app text messages, right? she's liking your pictures online, anything where she's taking precious time out of her life to give you some sort of attention, that means that she's probably interested. Now, here's the deal. I want this to be very clear. A lot of guys get this wrong, is that she could still be paying attention to you and not be interested. That's where compliance comes in. That's where pushing the interaction forward comes in. You don't just sit there and talk to a girl all day and don't try to ask her out. You don't just sit there and talk all day and not try to go for a kiss. You don't sit there and talk all day and not try to move the interaction forward and get her back to your place. You don't sit there and talk all day and not try to have sex with her. You want to move the interaction forward if you're getting the sign that she's paying attention to you. And you do it in these micro steps. Okay, in these micro steps. By the way, if you ever checked out my Hooked program, which is at getherhooked.com, you'll notice that one of the things that you can add on to the order is a product that I have called Tests That Reveal Her Interest. And I go through the entire compliance ladder in full, from beginning to end, how to get compliance, how to know what to do the second you're with her, and then the little tests that you can do to reveal that she's interested in you. So you can get that. That's an add-on. That's not something you can get separately. It's an add-on to Hooked, which you can get at getherhooked.com. Very, very cool stuff there. But at least here you know this. You know that attention is the most important. Okay, the intention is the most important. So when you're talking to a girl, is she giving you the time of day? And if she is, then you move the interaction forward. And if she continues to comply and give you more attention, then boom, you're in a pretty good place. Now, there's also levels of attention. Okay, there's actual levels of attention. And that means that she could be paying attention to you in various ways. I already said some, like she's looking at you, she's talking to you, she's asking you questions, but then sometimes she's actually touching you, right? Which is one of the biggest signs. That's a sign that I don't want guys to ever miss, that. And then if she is touching you, she's touching your shoulder, your arm, she's, continuing to be very close to you. Again, this is a situation, by the way, where you're meeting her out and about, street, mall, bar, club, or finally you get her on a date and she's somehow touching you, or she's leaning in a little bit more, right? All these things are signs. These are all wonderful, beautiful signs to get you to move forward. What I don't want you to do, I really can't repeat this enough, is just sit there and be like, yay, I've got the signs. Then you put them in your pocket and you just feel happy about it. Because let me tell you something, that happiness is going to go away very quickly when you have all those lovely signs in your pocket and you don't do anything with them. Because when you don't do anything with them, she's going to be like, does he even like me? Because he's not trying to do anything. He's not asking me out. He's not trying to get me to come back to his place. And he's not trying to kiss me. And he's not trying to have sex with me. And he's not spending any time with me. And all these things, yada, yada, yada. And the list goes on as you continue on towards, whatever type of relationship you have with her. She's going to start getting turned off. A woman still wants you to be dominant. Again, another concept that I come back to quite regularly here on the Trip Advice How to Talk to Girls podcast is dominance. Dominance is just another fancy term for moving the interaction forward, because that's what a dominant guy does. He takes action, he takes control. He sees a situation and he goes for it. Without any fear. This is why it's really important that a guy goes and approaches a girl. That's because it is showing her that you're confident and you don't have any fear. A girl doesn't want to meet you if you are not confident and sure of yourself. So the only way you're going to have to do this is by approaching her or messaging her or whatever it is, or any other, avenue that you're meeting a girl like this. You need to be the one to be able to pull the trigger here. It's so important. And again, women aren't lazy. I talk about this in the podcast quite a bit if you've been an avid listener. Women aren't lazy. They're just testing your masculinity. And by the way, don't think that you aren't testing her femininity, because you are. You walk into a bar. Do you want to talk to every single girl? Do you want to approach every single girl? Of course you don't. Why? Because you're not attracted to all them, because they don't have the type of feminine style that you are looking for. Okay? They're not attractive to you. So for every girl that you do approach, there's about 10 girls that you don't. You've just rejected them. A girl gets rejected when she's not being talked to. Okay? You have to understand that. I know we think of rejection as something that's more of an action item, but rejection also stands very firm in not doing anything. So if there's a girl that goes out to a bar one night, she, maybe is looking her best or doesn't look her best or whatever, she's not really trying that hard and isn't smiling or just isn't an attractive girl and she doesn't get approached by anybody, she's technically been rejected. She's been rejected because no guys want to talk to her. Now, again, a guy might be attracted to her but not approach her, and, well, that's the guy basically rejecting himself because he's not even giving himself a shot here. But that's how women get rejected. They don't get talked to, okay? So that's rejection. Rejection happens all the time to women. But for you, it's different, okay? The masculine penetrates and the feminine receives. Something I've learned about in the David Data book called The Way of the Superior Man. Highly recommend that if you haven't checked that out. Okay, and that's the idea of just breaking down what the masculine and the feminine is. By the way, what's crazy is that the masculine and the feminine doesn't matter if it's an actual boy with a penis or girl with a vagina. Okay, a woman can be more masculine and a guy can be more feminine. That's actually can occur, okay? But it's about creating the polarity between the two. So if you are a guy who is more masculine, you will attract a woman who's more feminine. And if you're a guy who's kind of feminine, you might attract a girl who's more masculine. That's not always the case, okay? Generally speaking, if we're talking about heterosexual relationships here, and we're talking about a woman who is in her femininity, who wants to be penetrated by the man, and we mean that literally and metaphorically as well, okay? Obviously literally in the sexual sense, but in the sense of just talking to a girl, she wants to receive. So she is sitting there at the bar, on the street, in your class, wherever she is, waiting for you to come up and approach her and make that move. Dominance, 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 okay? You got to do that. And that's the same thing with going not just in the beginning of the approach, but all the way to sex, all the way to relationship, and all the way, and so on and so forth, right? And so that's the idea here. And so that's, coming back to the topic here, is you need to be able to look for that sign, and if not, at least be moving the interaction forward until you start getting those signs so you can get the compliance and then move forward to your goal. Sex, relationship, boom. That's what it is. Simple. Broken it down for you. Can't be any simpler than that, right? Cool. All right. Don't forget, check out Hooked, my program at getherhooked.com. I did have a funny comment here in iTunes. Someone said, oh, this podcast is just a podcast where he's just, advertising his program. That's true. I am advertising my program, and I should be able to because it's amazing, and it helps so many guys. It's like if you had the solution in your hand, wouldn't you do anything you can to get it to people? Yes, you would. Yes, you would. And people are like, well, why don't you give it for free? Well, then if I give it away for free, then I don't have any money and I can't live. And then I die because I can't eat the food on my table and pay rent and all those things. Plus, I believe in exchange of value in the world, right? We're always exchanging value. And I hope you got some value out of today's podcast. So make sure you look for the signs and you get compliance, you move things forward. Check out getherhooked.com. I'll see you in the next episode.